Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with what should be the 37th episode of our first run through Book of Hours for YouTube VODs. Looks like we are just about to start spring. We've got one more day in winter, it looks like, so this might be an indication. Actually, you know what? Let's not worry too much about that. So we don't have an event, it looks like. And the yearly stipend... Oh, okay. Actually, apparently we are transitioning into summer after all. That's funny. Oh, I think I know why. Sorry, we've transitioned over into spring, but we still have the snow from before. That makes sense. All right. I also don't recall if the new update has come through, but there have been a few changes to the game. But I don't think they should interrupt the session that we have in mind. We've got a couple of solar period books. Actually, it looks like we've got two more. As usual, I need a minute to review where we're at, because I have been back to something of a normal pattern with Book of Hours on stream. Okay, so we've got a few solar period books to read. We've got... yes. But we also have a bunch of books which I probably can read without worrying about the solar period. Okay, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Let's cross over to see what the weather is. We'll probably have somebody who we want to, have an exchange in terms of, whether they give us a language or... we want to fulfill their request. But I have a feeling that probably I'm going to be diving into a few texts and trying to get the skills out of them. So let's focus on that for now. And then the rest we'll sort of let fall into place. Alright, so it's a sunny day. We've got 2 lantern and 2 sky to work with if I so choose. A yearly stipend. The yearly stipend from St. Ronwin's has arrived, along with the usual rather sniffy reminder that I should spend it wisely. So I'm actually reasonably happy about that, because, like the crown's enough, especially because a lot of the hirelings we've been taking care of, or sorry, we're not taking, a lot of the hirelings we've been using aren't that costly. But if I did want to start bringing in a few of the specialists, I'd see that money evaporate pretty quickly. And of course, I have more elements of the soul now, so I'm able to, I'm sort of able to afford a detour in terms of working at the sweet bones and such. But I'd rather not use my elements of the soul for that if I can avoid it. So the first thing I want to do here is take a look and see. It's the new week, so I don't necessarily know 100% where I'm sitting with my, my various tasks and abilities. But maybe one of the first things I want to take a look at, is there a sky or a lantern text that I wouldn't normally be able to read that is now enabled through the weather? So we've got the Watchful Tantra, the Rose of Woznai. Chandler's Wish is a bit ambitious. Okay, so there's certainly no shortage of level 8 lantern texts for us to worry about. And then there is De Motu Corporum Veditorum, which is a higher level sky text, although it is worth remembering that with Faust we only have the one sky, so it's a little more risky. So let's think about how we would handle an 8 lantern, and that should give us an indication in terms of where we go with the rest of it. Now, I guess the important thing to remember about here is that all I'm really gaining with the sunny day is saving the reading of another text. So what I mean by that is that basically instead of using one of my elements of the soul to read a text that'll give me a revelation, let's say, what I'm going to do here is I'll use the sunny day as an input. The other thing that I can do is if it's a more ambitious text, so let's say it's one where I need maybe 4 memory, just for the sake of the argument, then of course I can bring the, I guess in this case I would put the 4 into the reading, and then I would I'd put the 6 into the reading, and then I would wait for the memory to pop up, hoping that it's either a memory or a winter. But again, a lot of this depends on whether or not I have the lantern to carry it off. So let's just take a quick look at where we're at with my skills. Looks like the best I can hope for is 2 lantern right now. In fact, there's a slightly easier way for me to do that, and that's mousing over. And sure enough, Disciplines of the Scar and Glazier and Lightsmithing are the only 2 that I have. So that's good to know. So with our Faust, we've got 2. With Glazier and Lightsmithing, we bring that up to 4. We can use the Mirror Scope, which would bring that up to 5. And then I can get that up to 7 with a revelation, but it's clearly not going to be enough. So this is definitely one of these times where it would make sense to read a lantern text. But with that in mind, we do need to still get the lantern. So the next question ahead for me is, does it make sense for me to try and bring Mrs. Kill in so we can wind up talking with her and getting the memories as a result there? Or would it make more sense for us to just simply read the book and move on? And one of the things that will decide that is what kind of, what other sorts of travels am or not travels, what other tasks am I looking to perform today? So for instance, is there something that I could use Mrs. Kill for to access other parts of the house? It would look to me like probably the heart is the best I can work with. So let's actually take a minute and think about what Mrs. Kill can do. So she starts off with 2. We have a plus Arab here, so that would give us an extra 3. So we can bring her up to 5. So with a memory, we can make that 7. And then with a tool, we can bring that up to 8. So at that point, we really just need a... At that point, I guess we really just need a drink, and we certainly have no shortage of that. In fact, we could just use the wine that's on the desk here. Although I suppose that does give me some scales, so maybe I would want to consider the Witching to Sane, which is effectively costless for me. Okay, so that kind of tells me everything I need to know about Mrs. Kill. We'll almost certainly hire her. That is going to create some awkwardness with the visitor, but we have other ways of handling the visitor. So let's lock that in right now. We'll speak with Mrs. Kill. Now, I could be setting myself up for a little bit of disappointment in terms of reading the text, so I'm only going to get so many attempts to talk with Mrs. Kill and get the lantern memory, or like the lantern memory that I need as part of the so let's say if I'm halfway through the day, if I don't have that, maybe it's time for me to read a book and get that memory. But still, I think it's worth it just because we're going to be able to upgrade her for other tasks. Okay, so we've got the Arab and the Faust spoken for. I have 3 texts to... Well, actually, let's keep following this train of thought. So we've got Oblations in Iron, which is a 6 winter text, which if you... when I think of 6 winter, that shouldn't be that hard for me to deal with. Although I am starting to sort of run into the... some of the challenge, one challenge I'm running into is forgetting what I've leveled up. So in this case here, it actually looks like it's Rhyme and Remembrance is the best that I've got for winter. Nope, Quenchings and Quellings as well. Okay. So Oblations in Iron is a little more difficult than I thought it would be. We don't have an item to work for that. I have Whist, I have 2 from a skill, but I would need a memory from that. And again, that's potentially something that Mrs. Kill gets me. So what do we do with the rest of these? Nectar, I think, was always going to be at the mercy of the weather. The World Does Not Weep is certainly very ambitious for us if we're struggling with Oblations in Iron. And Ambrosial, I think... So we can bring in a metal. I'm pretty sure this one we already made a determination about. It's basically in the same place as some of these other texts. Nope, a door in the wall Okay, nope, door in the wall is still just to forge. Okay, so basically it's in the same place as all the other ones. So this is why we're taking advantage of the sunny day. So, some other things that I would like to do is take advantage of the weather to do, you know, the various gardening tasks and such. So I think I said I wanted some cat's claw. There we go. So I don't think I'm going to use nectar today. Gather in spring, gather cat's claw carefully. Its mischievous thorns find ways through the thickest gloves. If I feel like it, I could try and get some more blue crown. I think I already have some, but I don't think it would hurt to get a little bit more. I can also go for the moth orchid. So overall, I've got 2 core that I can use towards, you know, beekeeping, getting vegetables, so on and so forth. I want to kind of be careful in terms of how I'm allocating this stuff because I am still going to want... Oh yeah, so we're going to try ablations and iron. So that tells me that I should leave 2 elements of the soul aside to work with. Work with the text if that doesn't turn out for me. Okay, so metal can be one of those. And I guess it would be shapt in this case, because shapt isn't really useful in terms of Crowcross sands and such. Okay, so this is oblations and iron. This is, oh, what was it? The Tantra, the Watchful Tantra. Okay, so that's 2 books for discovery, and of course we have other options available for us there. The Fet and the Tryst will be used for gathering items, although maybe that's not the most important thing I can be doing. Okay. Let's say we... I am going to do the gardening. So I'm assuming this will tell me that the earth is sleeping. Oh yes, actually this is going to be decided for me because I don't have... Oh no, hang on. I am going to have drums and dances to work with. Okay, but I am going to go for the moth orchid. And I guess the real question now is, do I want to get the remaining blue crown? And I think the answer to that is yes. Okay, so both coil and chasm and drums and dances would cover that for me. Alright, so with that in mind, now we'll go to the moor. With that, we use our Fet, and ideally the lowest level... Oh, actually... Yeah, I'm going to use furs and feathers on that. And same story with the Tryst. This is because it's going to be tied up for a longer time, so the last thing I want to do is sort of trap myself on a particular, like on a task like this. Okay, so that's sort of everything spoken for. These are going to be held in reserve until we sort of know what the memory situation is, but I'm feeling okay with where we're at. We have 2 memories that we want, so conversations with Mrs. Kill will not go to waste. And we also have a plan for her in terms of going through the house. Now, I don't have much hope for the uncatalogued books. That'll be what these 2 are for, but you know, we can't do everything in a day, so. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Midwife's assistant, as somber as autumn, as kind as autumn. She also likes her beer. Now, I'm not going to start her off with her upgrades because we're a little more time sensitive in terms of getting the books read. So right now we're going to just get as many memories out of her as we can, and then we're going to start augmenting her her abilities. And ideally we'll wind up with with a winter or a lantern memory right away, just because that'll allow us to start committing some of these elements of the soul towards their intended task, and also freeing up these elements of the soul in order to be able to, you know, catalog some books or otherwise take care of what needs to be handled. Okay, solace. So that's good for heart, not so much for what we really need here. So there it is in Camino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Still dawn. At this time, the Sisters of the Abbey would raise their voices in praise of the Madrigad for the office of Aurora. And Fraser Strathcoyne is here on the affair of the particular mystique. The Suppression Bureau has a growing interest in the recent fad for unconventional, often prophetic, religious movements. No laws have been broken, nothing sinister has come to light. All these movements are comfortingly solar in nature, but there does seem to be something going on. Alright, Fraser Strathcoyne does know Ramsund, so we do have a little bit of a dilemma here in the sense that this is someone who I would actually maybe like to see have their needs fulfilled, but he does have a language that we don't yet know. So, philanthropist, collector, former librarian, a complicated man, but not a cruel one. So we'll make a determination on that later. I am slightly inclined towards picking up the Ramsund, but we'll see what he's here about. Okay, so the regret gives us the winter that we need right away. So we'll use the pale desk for this. So we grab our whist, we grab the regret, we apply quenchings and quellings. Well, I can really do whatever I want here, but... And then finally we will take Ablations and Iron, a monster hunting initiate of the hour called the Colonel, who identifies herself as Little Sophia, records the exhibits she has rendered to the Worm Museum in the Mansis. I can master this mystery. So that's one of our tasks taken care of. I'm not going to commit Fraser Strathcoyne, but Librarian, I have urgent business with you. Perhaps you know something of the Obliviates Librarian, an order of long who have forsworn traffic with the hours. Interesting. But let's keep working with Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. We're also at the point where I can consider one of these texts, so let's apply the shaft. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Solar Gothic period, roughly between the 1000s and 1500s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. So that should let us fill up the last of the uncatalogued texts. One feature I do rather like about the game, this is one of these things where if you were to ask someone whether or not this is a good feature of a game, they would tell you no and that it needs to be fixed. But the game has included some helpers to sort of help you navigate and so on and so forth. But you'll notice there isn't like a hotkey to try and find lost books. So, you know, there'll be a button to allow you to collect the results from idle workbenches, but there won't be a button to say, oh, I misplaced, you know, I think I've got a book that I haven't cataloged. Where did I put that? And you can imagine, you know, you wouldn't be able to find a specific book out of that, but you would certainly be able to find the uncatalogued ones. And to me, this is definitely more of the librarian journey that's coming through on this. You know, you are responsible for the books. It's your business in terms of how you shelve them, what you do with the ones that haven't been cataloged. And I rather like this detail, although I can see why people might be annoyed by it. Okay, unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. So here we have a quartz chunk, ice, rock, winking light. I seem to remember this was getting a little full here. And Christopher's Nook has started to get a little crowded, but I am going to follow that pattern. Alright, sea glass. Seems to me like this is similar to what we got last time. Alright, more blue crown. In spring, as the days warm, blue crown still blossoms for a little while. I wouldn't expect that to be a regular thing, but I'm happy to get a little more. There's our cat's claw, so that's something that we will put to good use. And finally, the moth orchid. Moth orchid is soft as velvet to the touch, except when it changes. So as you can see, we're definitely struggling to find places for all of the plants we're picking up. But we'll work it out. Okay. So I'm reasonably happy with where we're at right now. We've gotten a book cataloged, which I wasn't well, I won't say I wasn't expecting, but I wasn't banking on. The intuition doesn't really help me, and we are getting rather close to midday, so morning, the 3rd hour, when the office of terse was once was sung, watch as the day opens like a door. And one thing that did just occur to me is that I was banking on a Grail memory, which I don't have, so it may be that I need to find another source of Grail for Mrs. Kill, or my ambition to open one of those Grail areas might have fallen down. I do also have the option of restoring one of these elements of the soul, but let's see what we can get done with the day. But I think we will probably consider this to be the last attempt to get a memory, and then we'll start upgrading. Okay, now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. So this is one in Kernwick-Hennevek. I don't believe I've started dividing... Yeah, I think I've just been making, you know, can't read piles. I should come up with a better way of sort of breaking up the unreadables. We're definitely getting quite a bit more shelf space, so there isn't quite the same argument for crowding everything together. But my hope has always been that we just ultimately read more of these. Okay, fear. That doesn't really help me here. So midday, before the Great Division, this was the 6th hour, when the priests led hymns to the sun and splendor. Now noon, as they say, is not as it was. Perhaps the new king will change that. So let's start by upgrading Mrs. Kill. My pride will find an echo in theirs, and while we are at it, we'll now apply our metal towards something that will give us revelation. Now, I used to use the Locksmith's Dream as a guide for that. I hope it's Stolen Reflections, otherwise I'm going to be very embarrassed. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. I do also have the option of employing the Ashertine. That's a fairly high-level ink to be applying towards a fairly simple text, so I'm reluctant to go that far. So what I may do here is I'll use the tool to boost up Mrs. Kill, but we're going to keep talking with her to get the memory. Eagerly we anticipate our work. And the idea here is that I won't be using a consumable until the last possible moment, so I can lend my assistants something to help, increasing their abilities. And we'll be making an effort on the lantern text in just a little bit. In fact, just in time for us to finish reading the winter text. Little Sophia has never visited the Worm Museum or even the Mantis in person, and evidently has no desire to do so. She mixes ink, which incorporates the remains of her prey, writes her records in that ink, and then burns them before the Colonel's altar. It is essential, however, to permit no drop of the ink thereby obtained to enter any portal of the body, even a break in the barrier of the skin. Should any fragment of the worm remain viable, it might enter thereby, and the hunt's ultimate conclusion be melancholy indeed. So this earned me Inks of Containment, so that's going to be an upgrade for us, and a Hindsight. I'm trying to recall if these were regrets or hindsights. So what are some of the other and because the funny thing about this is that I seem to recall I seem to recall I would have I had a very similar challenge here. So I think this wound up being foresight. Oh, hang on. Okay, so 7 shards. What is there an argument for 7 shards? It's below the foresight, so I think it's likely I probably said foresight for 1, hindsight below. Do I have any other argument for hindsight? Not really. So what's the other way? It's the other way that I can argue this. Why would I put foresight above... Or sorry, why would I put foresight below hindsight? I don't see a reason, so I'm going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to anchor it with ablations and iron, hoping that the color reminds me. And then I guess the next step is to just hope that I don't forget, which I'm definitely going to do. Okay, so Inks of Containment will become a level 2, which is good. I will probably need to bring back the whist for that, and I'm willing to do that. So we're actually almost done the day, so let's get on that reasonably quickly. Tumbas will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Okay, yeah, so we're going to leave that be. We definitely have what we need to be able to level up Inks of Containment, and a lot of this just rests on what Mrs. Kill's going to do. Stools boosted their aspects appropriately. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. And here we go. The Locksmith's Dream, Stolen Reflections, the 4th volume of Teresa Galmier's expansive work, no longer a discussion of the dreams of artisans, but a valuable survey of other works. The tone is calmer than that of Trespasses, but occasionally fearful, even paranoid. This volume was published in 1926, but almost immediately recalled and pulped by the publisher at the request of the author or possibly the authorities, depending on which story you believe. A few copies survive. Janus is the gatekeeper, the twin god, the god that wounds, the presager of changes, the sun, the moon. So we identify him with the watchman, the twins, with the mother, with the forge, with the meniscate, and the madrigad. He cannot be all of these, can he? The Flamines knew the church, knew the dry land, knew Elagabalus. Is he then synthesis, or is he something else? In Gallicaea they called him Aeneas Lamius, but the Obliviots are notorious for their slanders. Janus, they say, has not 1 face but 2, to which I reply, why only 1? Why only 2? Hirschholt and Coseley, according to Thomas Love Denman, once agreed that Janus was all the gods and none, but later Hirschholt described him as all the gods, and Coseley favored none. Denman was a sinister dilettante, but this rings true of them both. There will be a quiz on the meaning of that at the end of the stream, or the series. Okay, let's read up. So the Watchful Tantra, we apply Revelation, Faust. I will put Glazerian Lightsmithing in the slot, and we will add the Mirror Scope knowing that we're 1 short still. So perhaps you provided Lantern, but not enough to match Mystery Lantern. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. So we'll give it the minute. Our hope here again is for weather or memory. Anything else is, well, sorry, not anything else, but we are in danger of coming up short. And I think I might... We've got a very, very narrow window in which we can get... I think we're going to have to rely on Mrs. Kill generating some satisfaction. Otherwise... Otherwise, I think we probably throw in the towel on exploring the room. That's a little bit of a shame, but I should have planned a bit better. Yeah, so basically we have a minute now to accomplish what we want. If I need, I can also get Strathcoin. He's Lantern or Scale, so I should be able to give him the Librarian's bed if it comes down to that. Okay, so I think at this point it's fair to say that we're not going to be exploring the room with Mrs. Kill. So, better now. Let's level up our Inks of Containment. Use a Stolen Secret for that, it doesn't really matter. There's always more to learn. Improve this skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting, and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms. So this is rather nice because it will boost my winter. It won't be enough to sort of achieve... We won't basically we're not going to be able to do anything that I couldn't already do with winter. But it is sort of nice to just be able to start pushing these things a little bit higher. And I think with Strathcoin, I'm probably going to ask for the language training. Oh. It wanted weather. Fortunately, okay, I'm actually quite lucky on that. So in this case, it did want a weather, and I missed it. But I can apply the sunny day still. Alright, the skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. And, ooh, okay, this is probably too late, but let's give it a shot. I can discuss this memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. So notice that I'm using the consumable at the very end. Yep, there we go. It's a little short of where we needed it. Alright, so we got a revelation out of that, so I don't know if this is going to help, but I am going to put it on the same shelf as Locksmith's Dream 4. The Watchful Tantra, notorious for its involvement in the deaths of David Jones and Meredith Blaine, two early physicists who each claimed to have the only copy and who ultimately fought a duel over it in 1840. The Tantra describes processes of occult illumination, including a formula which may show the way from the Hunter's Gate to the Serpent Gate, which in the West is usually called the Spider's Door. The sun passes through the house at the appointed time. Since the sun's division, the time has become uncertain. So overall, not a bad day's work. We are in fact going to be able to level up the skill that we use to read this book. One small shame here is that we are going to lose all of the... Oh, actually, no. We may be able to hang on to a memory here. So if I am... Currently I'm in the Motley bed, so the revelation doesn't help. Shucks. So under normal circumstances, I'd be able to hang on. So purifications and exaltations, so the solace will help us here. So let's dream on a memory. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. So this will help me be able to level up purifications and exaltations. We'll need a sky and a lantern for later. But overall, not a bad day's work. I can put The World Does Not Weep on a different shelf. Does it really matter? I don't think it does. And I know I'm at time, so I'm going to just talk with Strathcoin, and we will turn in, both for the stream and for the recording and the day. Okay, so again, if we talk to him about the affair, he talks to us about the Obliviates. I think in this case we will pick up Ramsond. My visitor can teach me the rudiments of this lively language. After tutoring you, the visitor will leave, even if they arrived on other business. So that's going to tie up the talk verb for a while. We may want to reconsider whether or not we bring in Mrs. Kill tomorrow, but that's going to be something that we solve for another day. So, Thank you everybody for watching. Again, my apologies for the kind of the scrambles at the start of the Monday episode. That's just going to be a feature until I find a way to record. I don't know. I have a feeling that doing the lumps is going to be a feature because it's the only way I've really been able to pull it off. But I will be back on Wednesday for another episode. And that one I will be a bit more familiar in terms of the next few steps. So until then, take care.